Hi, welcome to my new video. Are you starting with Linux? You have downloaded maybe a Debian-based, Ubuntu-based system, maybe SoranOS, Linux Mint, or a Fedora-based distro. It doesn't really matter per se. And you wanna get to know how Linux works, how you can install some packages, etc. You might be confused with some setups, etc. here and there. You wanna create a swap file, for example, on your system. And you are pretty insecure about the different steps, what you need to consider, etc. And there I would recommend to you to read the Arch Wiki. Now you might be confused why the Arch Wiki, because it's, for Arch Linux, but you are using a different distro. But in this video I will talk about its benefits indifferent of the Linux distro you are currently using. Let's go! Now, for example, if you are installing Word Manager and you need to install the libvirt daemon, for example, or, you want to install, as I said previously, a swap file here and there, or you just want to know how some configuration files are stored, where they are stored, how you can modify them, what nano is, how it behaves, how it interacts with the text files, the system configurations, etc. And again, you might be confused, why the hell am I recommending Arch Wiki to you? It's a completely different distro you may be using. And this is partially correct. What the hell do I mean with that? The distros, maybe Arch Linux, Fedora, NixOS, etc. obviously have different kind of package managers. And they have different versions of different packages, and also, in addition to that, each follow different philosophies. So I'm not saying you can take the Arch Wiki and copy-paste it one-to-one on your distro, but you can definitely use it as a reference. So I would not say it's 100% an explanation for your problems, but 80% an explanation for your problems. Because Arch Linux has a characteristic, and it's a minimal installation distro. What does that mean? That once of course there's the Arch install script, that's a different topic. If you install Arch Linux from the get-go without any additional configurations, etc., it's a pretty naked installation. So that means there is no GUI installed, there is no browser installed, there is no swap installed, nothing. You need to configure everything on your own, so that first of all there's a GUI to interact with, proper daemons that you need to run in the background, etc. So what's the difference to your distro you're using? On Linux Mint, for example, the basic bone structure of the distro is the same. It's just that, first of all, the versions are differently, and most of the parts you need to install manually on Arch Linux come pre-installed on Linux Mint, for example. So you do not need to install them. So if you would follow, for example, the Arch Wiki for installing a certain package or program, then most likely your terminal, if you use the proper package manager, would say it is already installed. It has pre-installed everything, most of the specific program maybe, but you could still follow the Arch Wiki and maybe follow every line and say, aha, the developers already configured this program, the setup in this kind of way already for me. So that even if you do not need to configure it, you could still reference the Arch Wiki and see how it was configured for you. So you can still grow your understanding of Linux in general. Because the package managers may vary, the stability of the programs may vary, how the distro itself handles mutability, for example, may differ. But the basic bone structure is the same. So SDDM, GDM behave the same on each distro, and packages, Pipewire behaves the same on each distro. And usually, for example, comparing Fedora to Arch, the differences are not really that big. So there's maybe one or two versions behind Arch, for example, but other than this, not really something to consider. And yes, again, some wording may differ. For example, adding yourself to certain user groups. This process may be different and some minor details may be different. But you have first of all a reference and see, okay, it tells me to do this, but on my distro it's not working. Then at least you have some keywords to put into your browser and see, okay, what do I need to do? But other than this, I could say is that on Fedora, Debian, everything is configured for you, so you do not really need it. But if, first of all, you stumble across some rare case, where the official documentation of your distro doesn't really help you, or you just want to understand how a program works, how it behaves, etc. I could really say is that on all Linux distros, even though I do not really use Arch Linux as my native system anymore, I switched to Fedora because of stability, blah blah blah, but the Arch Wiki is the holy grail of entire Linux. The gods have united and blessed us with this holy script. Okay, maybe not that, but still, yeah, it's just a good starting point as a reference to get to know Linux. Yeah. Here I am on the Arch Wiki page, and of course, for example, you wanna work with a virtual machine, for example, VirtualBox. You can just type it in. And here everything is documented. And of course, how you can install VirtualBox, for example, on a Fedora, on a Debian system, they all differ, obviously, in their unique steps. And of course, if there's a documentation specifically made for Debian systems, you need to check them up first. So I'm just recommending the Arch Wiki to non-Arch Linux users, for those, when there is no official documentation and you have absolutely no way of checking a tutorial, etc. So if Debian, for example, Debian has its own VirtualBox tutorial, so it's not a great example here, but it's a last resort. The Arch Wiki is the best documented website for Linux in general, in my opinion. And if you sort of stumble across an issue, let's call it swap, for example, because the swap on command, the swap off command is the same on each Linux distro, working, for example, creating swap files on a ButterFS system. It's different than on X4, for example, and working with swappiness, for example. This directive here is the same on each distro, and how you can change the settings is also the same. So that's what I meant. It's not 100% identical to of each Linux distros, but 80% identical to each Linux distro. So again, if you are working on a Debian system, for example, a Fedora system, and there's a program you want to modify, install, for example, and there is no official documentation and you have absolutely no experience, ChatGPT gives you some weird-ass answers, the Arch Wiki could be a good starting point. Okay, and I hope it is clear that I do not say that the Arch Wiki you can use them one-to-one on your distro, but as a rough orientation. Thanks for watching this video. I hope this video was interesting, helpful. Maybe you have an easier time now to get into Linux, how it behaves, the system configurations, program configuration files, where they are stored, etc., how they behave, how you can modify them, what, for example, swappiness is. Because other Linux distros, all of them use swap, but what is swap and how you can modify it, on the Arch Wiki, it's clearly defined. But again, keep working, because there's still much to do and go read Berserk.